Well, as you can see, it sort of cleared up. The rain was just very short-lived this morning, and now we've got to run up to the airport. Found some tickets. I'm going to head back for a very short trip, get some things done, and come back again. We're going to talk about this a little bit more after, but a lot of people have written to me in different platforms and whatever, why don't you just, stay and open a coffee roasting business there? That's not in any regard as easy as it sounds. Getting the business, incorporated, that's like buying the land here when you come. That's easy. After that is where it gets fun. So I'll tell you more about that after, because it's not easy. So the easiest part of starting a business here is the way you'd go about it. Is you'd find a lawyer, and if you're going to do this on a solo basis, you're going to be the sole person. I mean, it's a little more complicated. I'm giving you the very simple version, but you'd start the company, and it would get incorporated. You'd have a name for it, blah blah blah. So it would be, Todd and Sid's coffee roasting business or whatever. That's the easy part. Now the company has been incorporated. It's a legitimate Bahamian company, but neither of us can work there. Yeah, you like that? Right. So because we own the company, but we are not entitled to work here just because we own it. We would have to get work papers. That could be the end of it right then and there. We might be able to get work papers, but so that's your first stumbling block. Could you get work papers? Because just because you own the company doesn't mean you can work here. Okay, that is a nice jet. I don't know whose jet that is, but that's a nice jet. Okay, well, that's all done. So let's assume you did able to somehow finagle getting work papers. You got work papers. Now, if you got them, because this is a unique, more specialized type thing, it's not like being a handyman, gardener, Haitian, you're probably going to be looking at, my guess is $12,000 to $15,000 a year for those work papers. That's right. You have to pay every year for your work papers. It's not a one-time deal or a once in a while or anything like that. It is what it is. But okay, so assume you want to pay that $12,000 to $15,000. Now, you still have no way to roast this coffee. There's no equipment here. There's no green beans, so that's got to be accounted for too. Yeah, definitely windy. clouds are coming back too. Okay, so now we paid, you know, maybe $5,000 to $7,000 to get the business going. We've paid $12,000 to $15,000 to get the work papers. Probably more than that because you need a lawyer and all that kind of stuff. So basically, we're already over 20 grand and we haven't made one cup of coffee yet. Now, machine. Let's say you're gonna start with a smallish machine, $5,000 in the US. So by the time you got that machine here, you're gonna be looking at about $10,000 for that machine. And you have no way to, let's assume it's an electric roasting machine. So you have no way to, you know, worry about the gas or any of that stuff. You're just using plain electricity. And as we all know, the electric here is not exactly totally reliable. So you would also inexpensive. So you'd also want to factor in the cost of that electric use, and you'd also want to factor in the cost of a backup generator sizable enough to power that in case, because I mean, heaven forbid you're in the middle of a, you know, 20-pound roast of beans and the power goes out. You either throw them away because they're only partially done, or you have to have that backup generator. So there's some more costs. You're probably looking at another, let's go with 10 grand for the generator. So what are we up to? Let's see, 15, 20, 30, 40, probably with fees and everything else. Let's just round it up to 50,000 right there. That's just so far. Okay, now we, as Sid just pointed out, we actually haven't roasted, or do we even have any green beans to roast? So to give you an idea on that cost, if you're gonna, you know, use relatively good beans and you're buying them wholesale, you're gonna be looking at around, you know, they come in either 132-pound bags or 154-pound bags. So relatively heavy. You're not going to buy just one bag at a time, but one of those bags, wholesale wise, is going to run you around, let's say, $500 to almost $700 a bag. So let's say you don't want to do a whole bunch of shipping all at once, you know, bag by bag by bag. So let's get 10 bags. Okay, so there's another 6,000, rounded up $7,000 in green beans.
How many pallets?
10 bags fits on a pallet. So now you've got 10 bags of green beans. Coffee and beans should be duty-free, so that shouldn't be. You've only got a 12% VAT tax on there, and then of course the shipping with the weight and blah blah blah. So I mean, we'll add in another, I don't know, 20%. How's that? So another 20% on the 7,000. So now we've got the green beans are here. We're coming up on 60 grand in expenses, and because of this environment, we can't just store them just any place. We've got to really control the humidity and temperatures and everything else, because
we need a bunker.
Well, you need something. It's not necessarily a bunker, but you need something where the humidity stays at a constant level. You don't want to dry the beans out with too much air conditioning. So you've got another system that you have to put in place to store those beans, because I can tell you, it gets really humid here in the summer. So you've added all these factors in, and you know, you could be looking at somewhere just to start with 80,000 or more. And so when you start looking at,
I'm gonna hire somebody.
Right. You'd have to hire somebody unless you want to do it all yourself. $80,000 just to get it going. And then you have to hope that there's enough people, not to mention your coffee that you were buying for, say, even wholesale, $5-6 a pound, or even the good stuff, which is closer to $8 a pound. When you're buying it at that and you incorporate those costs and your electrics and everything else, I'm not sure there's a market for somebody who's going to be paying,
$25 for 12 ounces.
Well, it'd be more than 25 cents. That's the thing. If in the U.S., a specialty good coffee is running you around, say, 14 to $20 for 12 ounces, over here you'd be looking at $30, $35 for 12 ounces. I think that could even be low. I don't think there's a market for that.
No, particularly that they're tea drinkers.
Right. Eventually in time, it will come to change. And I think even as a retail business in time, it will happen even here as more people come from places that are used to drinking good quality coffees and everything. There's a market for it. There will be a market for it. Right now, there's no market for it. So in time there will be, but not right now. The costs are too high. The government is too prohibitive for foreigners starting business. There's no real incentives. So, I mean, that's basically the gist. Would you want to gamble, somewhere in that $80,000 to $100,000 range?
We'll take investors.
I mean, if somebody does, I'll be more than happy to do it. If you want to put up $100 grand, definitely give it a try. But my money? I don't think so. And actually, I said what, 30, 35? If you're selling in the US that type of coffee for say 14 to 20, you're probably looking at $30 to $40 for that bag, because generally speaking, everything here is at least double. So think about it. How's that going to work out when you're selling a $10, $12, $15 cup of coffee? I'm not sure it's going to work. I'm pretty sure it won't work.
It's not the stuff you wake up with in the morning time, that's for sure.
So, as you can see, I've thought about all these things. It's not like that I haven't thought about what things we could do to end up doing a business here and all that. And at one time, I actually did have a business, so I know about that. I had a Bahamian partner, and then that didn't work out, and it was a construction company. And so then I ended up being the sole owner of the company, but I couldn't work. 2007 came, blah, 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 it all fell apart. That was the end of that. But it's a really hard place to do business. There's so many obstacles that are put in front of you. Business licenses and complying with this regulation and that regulation. It's the way it is. So, and part of that is that there's the biggest employer in this country is this country. I think Atlantis and that kind of thing is the second biggest, but the government is the biggest employer. So you got to have hopefully a modicum of things for these people to do. I mean, other than just basically show up. So you come up with all these rules and checks, and registering your car is like. So in time, will it change? Yeah, I mean, in time it will change. The environment will take a different route, but I also don't know if something happens worldwide, it could send it right down the tubes. Making a place just for, like when we were up at the airport, it could end up being a place that just the people with the nice private jets get to come to, because they don't really care that it's that expensive. They're only here for 3-4 days, and then they're going to fly away. So what's going to happen to the country over time, I don't know. They're going to have to adapt. I mean, one of the things they do here that's like mind-boggling is when you get a business license, that's one of it, you go by the gross, okay? And I think pretty much we all understand gross versus net. So let's suppose you did $1 million in business and you're the worst businessman person on the planet, and you actually only kept $5,000, okay? Because you just are terrible. You really shouldn't be in business. But somehow you managed to take in $1 million. So now your business license fee is based on that $1 million, not the $5,000 that you got to keep. And they are working on amending that to that route, but that's going to be a fun one too, because the way things are here and being a cash economy and everything, no, I didn't make that much money, really. I only made $2 last year. So there's a lot of things that are for here absolutely wonderful. The beaches, the climate, the people, doing business here. I don't know. It's a very hard environment to do business in. It's not very friendly to foreigners. It's barely friendly to Bahamians, and I say barely because I know plenty of them that have plenty of struggles in that department. So the best thing, if you're thinking of coming down here, the best thing is don't come down here and say, oh my God, there's so much potential and opportunities. You'll end up wanting to shoot yourself in no time. I can almost guarantee it. You have to have, and I don't have a ton of patience, so I'm not really sure why I've put up with so much over so long. But be that as it may, the best thing you can do, come down, enjoy it, buy a house if you want, you've got the money to, go to the beach, sit, read, go out to eat, do all that stuff, and then go back to where you came, make your money over there, come back again. You get the idea? But it's just how it is.